everyone. I am so excited to be running this workshop for you. It's called the Fit Girl Weekend Reset because I know all of you fit girls out there who are struggling with binge eating, who are ruining your results on the weekend, who are sick of not seeing the results from all you freaking hard work in the gym. I used to be you, and I am so excited to take you through this workshop. I think it's going to be super beneficial for you because it's going to teach you how to break your binging and finally get that result that you freaking deserve because you deserve to have the body that you want in 2026. So you are probably here because you feel like an imposter in the gym. You're probably training super hard all week long, probably on the weekends as well. And you're the person that people come to for advice. You're the person who brings the meal prep to work. You're the person who comes straight from the gym. You have your whole bag, you have your creatine, you have your protein powder, you have all the shakes and supplements, and everyone's looking at you as the gym girl. But you're the person who's not seeing any results. All these other girls in your workplace come in and they drop the weight when as soon as they start going to the gym or as soon as they start going for walks, but your body stays the same. You're not changing. You still feel and look the same. And it's frustrating because everyone's like, oh, you're going to the gym, you're so good, you're eating so healthy, but no one knows about your weekend binging. No one knows that as soon as Friday night hits, it's like, boom, binging all weekend long. You cancel plans, you plan your binges, and you actually get excited about binge eating. Because I used to get excited about binging too. I used to look forward to my weekends when I was binging, and I used to get pissed off if someone ever came in between me and that, because it meant like my plans changed and my binging was the most exciting thing that week. Even though I wanted to train really hard and want to look like a gym girl, it was like I forgot all about it every single weekend. And every Monday I'd wake up with a food hangover, puffy face, bloated, gained weight from all the binging, and then spend all week just trying to make up for it. You've probably tried everything to stop binge eating. And I swear, I hear this all the time from my clients. They're always saying to me that, why would this work for me? This is when they first sign up. Why would this work for me? I've tried everything. I've tried every meal plan. I've tried having more willpower. I've tried macros. I've tried, normal therapy. I've tried everything, but nothing ever works. And it's frustrating. And I feel like I'm just a lost cause. You're sick of the binge restrict cycle. You're sick of being good or bad. You're sick of binging and then restricting to make up for it and then binging again and not actually getting anywhere. It's freaking frustrating and it's wasting your time and money. And you want food freedom. You want that sexy body, and you, my friend, deserve to have it. So the fact that you're even here, that you're listening to this, shows me that you know that you are destined for more. Do you also know that if you keep doing this, you know it is going to lead to the endless weight gain? Yes, you might lose a bit of weight when you're restricting, but as soon as you start binging again, boom, it all comes back. And a lot of the times as well, this is what I see a lot with my girls, is that if they lose 3 kilos, they'll gain back 4. And then they might lose another 3 and then gain back 4. And every time they do this, they gain back a little bit more. And eventually, the bodies are looking completely different from when they first started binging. So I always say, nip it in the bud straight away. The quicker you can start working on this, and you here, so you obviously are working on it, the quicker you're gonna see results and you're gonna be binge free and you're gonna get the body that you deserve and actually feel and look like that gym girly. You're going to ruin your relationship to yourself more and more and more because, we both know this. Every time you binge, it feels like someone's chipping away at you a little bit more. You beat yourself up a little bit more, you talk badly to yourself, you're looking in the mirror and you're like, I don't even want to look at myself today. Like, I don't even want to go to the gym now. I don't want to wear this crop top. I don't want to wear the booty shorts. I don't want to be in the gym because everyone's going to judge me and see that I've gained all this weight. You're going to waste more money on meal plans. How many meal plans have you not been on the last few years? How many nutrition coaches have you had? How many challenges have you signed up to? Has any of it worked? No. It might have worked at the time, but if it actually worked, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be listening to this. And it's taking over your life. How many more plans are you going to cancel? How many more events are you going to skip out on because you're afraid you might binge? How many more holidays are you going to ruin because you're afraid that you might binge there? Or that you'd rather leave your friends or your family, go back to your room and binge? It's taking over your life. And you know that every single weekend it gets worse. Every single time it happens, that binge eating voice gets stronger. And it's like it's becoming your best friend. And my friend, you probably tried journaling. You probably tried meditating, having more willpower, maybe even, taking a deep breath, and nothing's worked. It is not you. It is not, doesn't mean that you're broken. It's not, there's nothing wrong with you. There's really not. And I say this with please listen when I say this, because there's nothing wrong with you. You just haven't tried the right strategy. Because there's all these coaches out there saying, nervous system regulation, like I am a nervous system specialist, but no one freaking knows what it actually is. Journaling when you get an urge to binge is probably the last thing you want to do. I know it's the last thing I wanted to do when I got an urge to binge. I didn't want to freaking get my pen out and journal. I just wanted to eat. I didn't want to meditate because meditating felt like impossible. Like I couldn't stop thinking about food. Why would I want to sit 5 minutes and just think about food? It just made it worse. Having more willpower didn't work because that willpower that you use to lose the weight is not the same willpower or technique that you need to use to stop the binge. It's completely different. And taking a deep breath, yes, breathing is a really good tool, but just taking one deep breath is gonna do cool. And if it actually worked, you would not be here right now. But don't be scared. I have the solution for you, and I'm going to help you today by first of all sharing my own personal story with binge eating. Because even though I am a binge eating coach now, I didn't start off as that. I was struggling with binging for 10 years myself. I'm going to do a different approach to binge eating recovery than you probably ever heard before. Because a lot of, nervous system regulation gets a big hype on Instagram right now, but no one really knows how to actually apply these tools. No one really knows what nervous system regulation is. And I'm going to teach you why what you're doing before didn't work and why what I'm teaching is going to work for you. We're going to talk about what the hell is the nervous system, because it's a very fancy, cool word, but no one really knows what it is. What is it actually doing? How your nervous system is making you binge and why you're staying stuck. And most importantly, what actually works. How to stop binging and actually get results from your hard work in the gym. And I'm going to give you some freebies. So stay till the end, watch it back, make sure you take your notes. Even if you need to pause the video now, get some notes out, write it down. This is going to be information that you are going to want to know about. So who am I then? Well, my name is Ellen, for those of you who don't know me. I am the founder of the Empowered Woman program. This is a program that coaches women to stop binge eating. Some of my clients stop binge eating after the first call. Some people take 12 weeks. But what I will say is I will never, ever, ever give up on a client. I will be there with you till the end. I will make sure that you stop binge eating. I will not let you fail. I would never let anyone fail. I am accredited in cognitive behavioral therapy, neurolinguistic programming, acceptance and commitment therapy, and a nervous system specialist. I've helped women stop binge eating and find food freedom since 2018. So I've been in the game for a long time before it was cool to be a coach. I also have a podcast called the Unfiltered Empowered Woman podcast, where I talk about binge eating, nervous system regulation, meditation, manifestation, interview cool guests. Like it's a very all-rounded podcast about everything empowerment. I also work as an educator for Women's Fitness Academy, Women's Fitness Education, and Leadology, where I specialize in helping women overcome their self-sabotaging mindsets, and do a lot of guest speaking events for other coaches and international companies. So let's talk a little bit about my story. And the reason I want to start with sharing this is because you might be sitting there thinking, well, how is this girl going to relate to me? Like, what does she know? What has she been through? She has not had it as well as I have. Let me tell you, I have. I kept binging for 10 plus years because I kept saying, it's not that bad. I can do it myself. I was the queen of being Miss Independent. I could do everything myself. I didn't want to rely on anyone. It was my way or the highway. I was the hardest worker in the room and I never needed help. Like, I don't need help. I can do it. Everything. Whether that was carrying a bag upstairs or if it was ending binge eating, I didn't need your help. I kept saying, I'm not bad enough to get help. I was never really overweight. Like if you look at this picture here, when I was binge eating and trying to not binge, I wasn't fat. And so I felt like I'm not bad enough to get help. Versus now, where I've stopped binge eating, I've regulated my nervous system and learned to eat with intention. I was stuck in this, I'll start again on Monday mindset. I'd wake up every single Sunday on Mondays there with a food hangover, like my face puffy, my body feeling like shit, everything hurting because I'd eaten so much food. Like I literally felt like hungover even though I didn't drink. And I kept saying, I'll start again when I've lost this weight. You know, once I've lost these 5 kilos, then I will start working with a specialist. I'll start working on my mindset when I've gotten to XYZ. Or the most common one that I hear most of the time, I can't afford it right now, slash, it's not the right time. Well, when is it ever going to be the right time? Honestly, it's not going to be like a big red sign in your calendar saying, right time. That's not going to happen. I just kept making excuses, and I'm afraid that so are you. But the good thing is that at least you're doing better than I was, and you're actually here because I would never sign up to something like this when I was deep in the trenches back then. But damn, I wish I would. So my binge eating journey started off with me developing anorexia, which is something I see a lot in the women that I work with. So a lot of women come from either something as severe as an eating disorder, or it could just be a long time of restrictive dieting and eating way less than you're burning. So what happened was that I went from one extreme to the next of controlling my food all the time to completely losing control. And I didn't know how to eat in a normal way. I couldn't remember what it was like to eat when I didn't track, when I didn't, try and lose weight, when I didn't count every single calorie. I didn't know what normal eating looked like. And because I never got help and just kept doing it myself, just kept going and just got worse and worse and worse. So what started off as me eating a bit extra on Friday and Saturday, like after I finished school or work or whatever I was doing, quickly escalated into full-blown binge eating. So when I moved to Australia, I'm from Sweden, but when I moved to Australia, I got with a guy and I remember hiding this behavior from him so much and still smashing it in the gym. I was still going to gym 6 days a week, sometimes twice a day to make up for what I'd eaten. And I remember he used to say to me, like literally confirming what I was already thinking, you don't look like a gym girl. Like, how can you train so much, but you don't look like you have muscle? You're not skinny, you're not ripped. And even though that was shit, and he definitely shouldn't have said that to me, it was true. It was true. And it was awful to hear because I knew it was true and I knew why. He didn't know why. He didn't know I was binging as soon as he wasn't home. He didn't know that when I said I'm just going to the beach, I actually went to a drive to McDonald's, got a huge McFlurry, family meal, more chocolate, ate it in the car, and then threw all of the rubbish in someone else's bin because I didn't want him to know. I didn't want anyone to know, you know? And I would literally get mad at him if he would come home and I'd plan to binge, and because he would interrupt my binge. And I'd be like, fuck, because I couldn't tell anyone. This was my dirty little secret. And this just got worse and worse and worse and worse. The more I tried to control it, the worse it got. I was working with coaches who were like, just calorie bank and calorie cycle. And if you want to eat more on the weekends, maybe you need to have more calories to eat. And I was doing that, just made it worse. I worked with a coach who said, well, just try harder, just have more willpower. Didn't work. Nothing worked because it wasn't about the food. It wasn't about having more willpower. It wasn't about restricting better during the week and having more freedom on the weekends. It was about the inner work. And I didn't realize how bad I actually was until I was working at a cafe at one point and I was closing the cafe. And I knew that when I was closing the cafe, I would have to be responsible for throwing all the leftover cakes and pastries and stuff out in the bin and, cleaning it all out. And what used to happen was that that would used to be like a free for all for me. I just used to binge because no one was there. It was me. And I was tired after a long day and I felt like I deserved it. And I almost looked forward to it. So what I started doing was throwing it in the bin and then putting coffee grind over it. Because one time when I didn't do that, I literally took that freaking croissant out of the bin, put it in my mouth, look up, and there's a customer. And I've never, like, my face goes red just thinking about it because I was so embarrassed. But that's when I realized, like, shit, this is not normal. Like, it's not normal to eat food from the bin. So I decided to start working on myself. I decided to do the inner work. And I actually got introduced to this by a random workshop that I just came to with my friend because she wanted to go. And I just burst out in tears because I was like, yes, this is what it's about. And then I started doing more research about it. And I started really focusing on like, what is this? And learning everything I could about binge eating. And quickly escalated to becoming one of the leading binge eating specialists in Australia. And honestly, I'm so grateful for my journey, even though it sucked. I know now how much is helping other people. And for that, I'm so grateful. So hopefully I can help you too. Now, if you're looking at this thinking, oh, well, you might just be a one-off person, let me introduce you to myself, my friend, my client, Imje. She is from South Africa, so I work with clients from all over the world, and she thought she would never be able to break this. She said, I don't think this will work, but I'll give it a go. Now, after our first intro call, she's like, you know what? Why would this work? I've done everything else. Why would this be different? But it did work. She had tried everything and nothing ever worked for her. But in her first call, we identified her core triggers and beliefs, and she was able to stop binging within 4 weeks of us working together. This is someone who felt like she couldn't afford it, she couldn't do it, but she did. She said, it genuinely changed my life for the better. Worth every dollar, even if it seems like a big commitment or amount of money, it was worth it all. What's your life worth? This is my client, Cassie. Cassie is a coach just like me. And she felt like such an imposter because she was a coach, or she is a coach. And she's like, why am I telling my clients to eat this way when I can't? Like, I can't stick to it. Like, what's wrong with me? And she felt terrible about herself. And she did a bodybuilding show. And after the show, as it usually does, it escalated. I work with a lot of clients who compete in bodybuilding. And after the show, if they don't have that support, it's freaking hard. And it was for her as well. She tried it for 6 months before she realized she wasn't getting any better. And she stopped binging within 6 weeks of working with me. Since then, she has now dropped the binge weight and is now maintaining her new lower body weight. This message that she sent me here, that was sent 6 months after working with me. Like, she has maintained these results. This is not a quick fix. This is something you're gonna be able to maintain for life. These results aren't random. They are the kind of results that you are going to get when you work with the right person and work with the body, the mind. Oh, sorry. Here's me, can't spelling. Spelling, not my great thing. Workshopping, teaching, coaching, my thing. When you work with the body and the mind, that's when you get results like this. Not just talk therapy, not just breath work, but combine somatic work with talk therapy, and you have a winner grand slam. So, some signs that you might be feeling dysregulated, because honestly, most people don't know that they are constantly just living in a chronically dysregulated nervous system. Because that binge urge starts way before you're elbow deep in ice cream. And it starts with things that you probably look at as, this is normal, this is just how I am. For example, a big thing is brushing your teeth while checking your phone, while making the bed, while putting the laundry out. When you feel like you can't just be still. So when you keep saying things like, I don't want to binge, but every weekend you lose control and you go way over your calories, that's a dysregulated nervous system. When you keep saying things that you don't want to do things, but you do them anyway, that's self-sabotage. Self-sabotage comes from a dysregulation in your nervous system. It doesn't come from not having enough willpower, not being disciplined enough. It comes from you having a dysregulation and your nervous system believing that this action that you want to break is what you need to do to stay safe, to survive. Constant overthinking. What you did, what you said, how that person reacted, if you did enough. Constantly, your mind constantly going, maybe you can't sleep, maybe you can't switch off, maybe you struggle to be present in conversations. Dysregulation. No matter what you do, you never feel enough. And you always compare yourself to others. No matter if you won first place in the marathon, doesn't matter. I didn't get that time. I'm not good enough. Or if you get 20 likes on Instagram, doesn't matter. It's only 20 likes. I wouldn't to get, like that person gets 200. Or if you're with a coach, they always share all of these people on their story. They must think that they're so much better than me. Maybe you lost 1 kilo this week. I lost 1 kilo, but I don't know, I could have lost 2. And like the week before that, I didn't lose any. That's dysregulation. You can't relax. If you watch TV and you need your phone, you need food, and you need coloring in book just to stay in the sofa and watch TV and be able to focus on the show, That's dysregulation. This is not normal. Unfortunately, it has become normal for our society, but doesn't mean that it should be normal. So if you said yes more than twice to those things, make sure you stay to the end and download and complete my Nervous System Reset ebook and send it to me on Instagram, and I'll send you the exact details of what you need to do next. So this is why your previous nervous system regulation tools, and I put that in brackets because people think it's nervous system regulation, and it can be to some extent, but it's not really. So how many people have been told to journal when you want to binge? I definitely was told that. And journaling can be great, but in the moment of a binge, that's the last thing you want to do. That definitely was the last thing I wanted to do when I was binging. You were told to just take a deep breath. And breathing is amazing. Don't get me wrong here. Breathing is something that directly impacts our nervous system and can calm us down or wind us up, but only if used in the correct way. Just taking one deep breath is not going to help you dismiss that urge to binge. This is basically like saying if you're feeling anxious or you're feeling stressed, just don't feel stressed. Just don't feel anxious. When has that ever worked? You were told to meditate and silence your brain. Meditation is another thing, really good tool, but not when you are getting a binge urge. Seated meditation can actually make your binge urge stronger and create more stress in the body. Why this is because it's basically like, imagine that you're in the forest and there's a tiger coming. If the tiger is like 30 miles away and you can just hear it roar, yeah, sure, then meditation and breathing might help. But if the tiger's right in front of you and you say, okay, sit down and meditate, well, your brain and your body is gonna go like alarm, like, hey, we'll send out those signals to go, you need to freaking get moving, like go do something. And the stress response will double because you feel so stressed and pressured in that moment. So this is why meditating when you get an urge probably is not going to help you. So this is why you can't talk your way out of a binge. And you can journal, you can try to have more willpower, you can start again on Monday, you can tighten up your macros, sign up with a new coach. Nothing will ever work until you learn to regulate your nervous system. This is the key thing. So if you've watched any of my workshops before, you might be familiar with the binge eating cycle. But this is the binge eating cycle from a nervous system point of view. So the first thing that happens, why we binge, we get a trigger, right? Something happens that triggered us to binge. We don't just sit on the sofa and nothing happens and then boom. There's always something that triggers it, even if that means that you're sitting on the sofa just feeling bored. That's still trigger, So a very common trigger is you didn't lose weight. Maybe you compared yourself to someone on Instagram. Maybe you didn't get the results that you wanted, something like that. That triggered that belief that you're not good enough. This is the most common core belief that most people have. I've struggled with this myself. I still struggle with this for a lot of time, but this is the most common core belief that I see with clients, especially when it comes to binge eating recovery. The body then goes, danger, danger, because that doesn't feel good. Most of us are not taught how to sit with those feelings of, I'm not feeling good enough right now. I'm feeling a bit sad. I'm feeling a bit lonely. I'm feeling, guilty, or I should have done better, or whatever it is coming up. So instead of sitting with that, we go, okay, how can we get rid of this? How can we make ourselves feel better in the moment? That's when we take action and autopilot kicks in. Boom. What happens in the brain is that your prefrontal cortex, your logical brain, gets flooded with stress hormones. Autopilot takes over, and you do what feels normal, what you've always done, or what you've done for a really long period of time. And you binge, because that temporarily makes you feel better. This is then, as soon as you finish eating, I'm sure you can all relate, why can I never do anything right? What's wrong with me? Why can't I be like everyone else? Why am I always the one who fails? And this creates a lot of anxiety. I'll compensate for this by doing X, Y, Z. Maybe I'll restrict my food, sign up to another plan, track my macros harder, have more willpower. This will be the last weekend. But all this is doing is just creating more stress. So you stay stuck in this dysregulation. And it's going to keep happening again and again and again. So let's then look at what the nervous system actually looks like, because you probably have no clue, because most people have no clue. They just like, oh yeah, nervous system, fight or flight. So much more goes into it than fight or flight. The nervous system controls everything, and it's always on alert of, are you safe or are you not safe? You know, when you're walking down the street, your nervous system is constantly at work scanning, is that person dangerous? Is that person good? Because if someone's coming with you with a knife, you need to be able to get the fuck out of there. This is what your nervous system is doing. It's not a bad thing. It's just literally you need it to survive. Every single living creature has a nervous system. So the top of the nervous system is called the parasympathetic state. This is our ventral vagal state, the break, the slow. This is the playful state. This is the stillness. You know, you can play, you can have fun, you can be present in conversations, you can take things in, you can see what's right and wrong, you can make conscious decisions, you know, you can look beyond what you want right now to what you want in the future, and you can actually do it. You know, you can actually get shit done. Then we have the sympathetic state. The sympathetic state is the fight or flight state, which most people are probably quite aware of. This is the doing state of the nervous system, which means there's a lot of mobilization here. There's a lot of energy in this state. This is when, you know, the fight state, for example, fighting someone off or screaming or hitting or getting really pissed, like road rage kind of vibes. And then we have our flight state, which might be like running away, avoiding, eating, you know, getting rid of the problem. Below here, we have, well, right at the bottom, we have a state called fawn. Fawn is the oldest part of our nervous system that was developed because our bodies don't want us to feel pain. You know, yes, a little bit of pain, but if the body feels like there's too much pain right now for you to handle, it will put you into a fawn state because it feels like this is the best thing we can do for you right now, because we cannot get away from this experience. This is, for example, where, you know, a lion would get like catch a moose or a bunny or whatever whatever animals they eat in the jungle, and the bunny would then go into a fawn state so it didn't feel all of the pain of being eaten. This is something that a lot of, you know, trauma survivors go through because it's just too painful to be there, so they disassociate, shut down, and numb themselves. This is where a lot of people feel depression, feeling stuck, feeling like they can't move. In between fawn and fight or flight, we have a state called freeze, which does not get talked about enough. This is equal parts sympathetic and dorsal. So dorsal is the regulated state. Or sorry, dorsal is the fawn state. Dorsal is equal parts go, 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 and equal parts stop. You need to be still. And this is why you have that, I have to, but I can't. I have to, but I can't. And I have so much to do, but I don't know where to get going. This is where we procrastinate. This is where a lot of people turn to binge. This is where a lot of people stay stuck because their bodies are like, we have to do so many things. But it's also, I don't know where to start. I just want to give up. And you get stuck there. So when we look at stressors then that triggers these responses, they're very different now and then. But obviously, your body, your nervous system hasn't changed at all in the last however many years. You know, it's basically exactly the same as it was when we were living in caves versus now that we're living in beautiful high-rises apartments. Like, it doesn't know the difference. It just knows stress. It doesn't care if you're stressed from someone looking better than you on Instagram, or you not having enough money, or the scales going up, or you not feeling good enough, or feeling the pressure from always having the most expensive handbags, or the pressure of looking a certain way and that you're starting to look old. It doesn't know the difference between that stress versus the stress of, do I have enough food here to feed my family? Is the group that I'm in, are they safe? Is there someone from another cave group coming to attack us? Is there a tiger down the road just waiting for us to step out of the cave and come and eat us? It doesn't know the difference. So of course, it's going to react in the same way as it did back then. This is why we need to befriend our nervous system, because your state decides your story. How your body is feeling will always impact the stories that you're telling yourself in your mind. So when we look at a fight state, for example, fight state, you feel angry, you feel reactive, and you want to confront the threat head on. Someone who's in a flight state might feel anxious. You want to feel that you want to escape, you want to avoid a situation. Someone who's in a freeze state want to shut down. They feel stuck, or they can't make a decision. In a fawn state, it's people please. Disassociate, and you try to keep the peace to stay safe. So every person has a state where they feel the most safe. The state where their nervous system tends to put them in as soon as they get triggered or there is some kind of emergency. So have a think about which state do you tend to go into. I know I'm definitely a fight person. How does this then apply to binge eating? You might be thinking. So in a fight state, let's say that you see a girl on Instagram and she looks so much better than you, or you think so at least, and instantly you feel angry or not good enough. And to calm yourself down from that frustration, because straight away you go into, like, what is she doing that's better than me? Why can't I just do more? I need to squat more. I need to train harder. I need to eat better. I need to be more strict. And I need she's like, why does she think she's better than me? Oh, I can't believe she's posting the photos with her ass hanging out. And instead of dealing with that frustration and understanding where it's coming from, why it's so triggering for you, you eat. Because food becomes a way to release that pressure and silence your mind for a bit. If you're in a flight state, let's say you overeat at dinner with your friends. You feel anxious, and to escape the situation, you go, fuck it, and as soon as you get home, you binge. Because you don't even want to think about it, you don't want to feel the guilt, you don't want to sit with that. If you're in a freeze state, you feel stuck, numb, or disconnected after a long day trying to do all your tasks. You're busy at work, maybe you have kids, there's so much to do all the time. And then when you get home, you eat because it gives you a quick comfort of when you can't process everything that you're feeling. Fawn, someone pressures you to just have it. Maybe you're at a family dinner or a dinner with your friends, and they're like, why don't you have some pizza? Why don't you have dessert? Or here, we made this. Are you not going to eat it? And because you don't want to disappoint them, you just eat anyway. You just want to keep the peace. Even though your body's full and you don't actually want to eat it, it feels easier to eat and pressure yourself to eat more than actually saying how you really feel, because that feels too scary. So how do we then regulate from this? How do we fix this problem? So I want you to look at regulation of your nervous system like a ladder. And in order to climb that ladder from whatever state you're in, you need to move through the different state. This is what somatic work really is. So regulating from a fawn state, very different from regulating from a fight or flight state. If we remember, fawn is very still, can't move, don't want to feel anything, numb, maybe you haven't felt happiness or sadness in a long time. Imagine if I just then tell you, oh, just go for a run, get rid of it. You can barely go and have a shower. How are you going to go for a run? Of course, it's going to be different. And the same thing goes for if you're in fight or flight and you're super anxious and super stressed about something and you can't stop thinking about it. And I tell you, just sit down and meditate. That's going to make it worse. It's going to be like in the forest again with the tiger, there's worse things to do here. So we need to understand what stage of the nervous system are we in and how can we move through the ladder to get back into that regulated place. So this is what you actually need. A step-by-step guide to understand how to dismiss that urge to binge. When you get triggered and you start having that thought of, I'm just going to eat whatever it is, chocolate in the fridge, screw it, I'm just going to have it. And you go into autopilot, you get completely dysregulated, you have no access to your logical mind. How do you dismiss that? How do you regulate before you get to that point? How do you not act when you are on autopilot? How can you snap out of it? And then also how to let go of the guilt post-binge. Because guilt is another thing that's stressing you out. Guilt is another thing that's making you feel like shit. Because your nervous system doesn't understand the difference between past, present, and future. It just understands what you're telling it is happening. So like when you're watching a scary movie, for example, your heart's probably beating, you're probably feeling a bit anxious, you're probably tensed. That's not because that scary ghost or demon is right in front of you. You know logically that it's not there, but your nervous system believes that it is. So this is why you're having this reaction. Same thing goes if you are thinking about the last time you binged and you're feeling like shame and failure and disappointment in yourself. Of course, you're going to feel like that. And of course, you're then going to act in the same way. You know, your thoughts are then just creating the same behavior again and again and again. You need the nervous system regulation work. You need to understand where you get stuck. You know, what state of the nervous system are you in? How do you self-soothe and regulate from that place so that you can move back and climb the ladder back to regulation and respond with intention rather than reacting like this and just reacting out of habit? You need to reset and transform. We need to reset your dopamine levels because when you're constantly on that guilt, shame, feeling like a failure, well, of course, you're going to want more dopamine. Of course, you're going to want to feel better in the moment. Of course, you're going to want a quick fix. Of course, you're going to want to, eat that chocolate cake or whatever it is because it feels good. And of course, you're going to want to scroll on your Instagram and, talk to different people and go on dating apps and do all the things because you don't know how to feel calm. You're constantly like this. Of course, it's going to be hard. You need to stop that constant roller coaster of either being on a super high, on a super low, or super high or super low. This is going to help you feel more regulated and calm, and you can actually start living your dream life. And what's going to happen if you don't do these things? You'll keep working hard in the gym, but you still binge on the weekends or at night. And you'll keep making yourself feel better by saying, I'll start fresh on Monday. But deep down, you know that you feel like the biggest imposter. And you don't want to post that selfie in the gym. Or you do, but you edit it or you hold in your stomach and you're like, I know I don't look like that in real life. Every time you're bored, lonely, comparing yourself to other women on Instagram, you'll start telling yourself that I'm not good enough story and you'll binge to distract yourself from feeling. Because you don't want to sit with that. You'll keep skipping meals and adding in extra cardio to make up for what you've eaten, but it will never be enough because you can't out-train a bad diet. It's much easier to eat 3,000 calories than it is to burn it off. But what happens if you do actually focus on these things and you do take what you've learned today and apply it to your real life? You'll actually start feeling like the gym girl that you say that you are. You'll actually start looking like her. And you start posting pictures of yourself, feeling proud of your physique, and actually be able to stick to that deficit. Whenever you feel emotional, you'll know how to self-soothe and regulate. You can do this in a healthy way, and that actually helps you release what you're feeling so that you can regulate and come back to your body. You can make decisions from that conscious state based on what you actually want and your long-term goals, not just what you want right now. You no longer feel stressed around food, holidays, or going out for dinner because you know that you're not going to overeat or binge. You see that your body is changing every week, and eating healthy just feels so easy for you. So if you're sitting here thinking, this sounds exactly like me, and you're tired of trying to fix it alone and feeling disappointed every time you fail, here's how we're going to actually fix it. Because these girls thought they'd never be able to stop binging either. They had tried everything. But then they tried the Empowered Woman. And they were able to stop binging within the 12 weeks they were working together. Some of the women that I work with stay with me for a long time because they love the transformational internal journey. But the binging is honestly not something that is a big problem for us. That fixes quite easy. The Empowered Woman program is for women who are ready to stop binge eating and finally start seeing results from all their hard work. This program is going to take you from feeling lost and out of control around food and probably most of your life to feeling empowered, confident, and actually get the results that you deserve from all the hard work that you've been putting in. My unique 12-week method has been trialed by thousands of women and it's a blend of one-on-one support with me, not someone else, group coaching, and educational modules. This is what the Empowered Woman method is. Week 1 to 4, we start with the Binge Breaker Blueprint. And these first 4 weeks is all about getting those quick wins and building momentum. Because I want you to start breaking your binging and seeing difference in your journey. You'll have weekly calls in the group, you'll have the check-ins with me, and you'll have all the accountability and support that you need to start breaking your binge eating. Week 4 to 8 is about doing the deeper work. The binging is not going to be a problem anymore. So this is when we need to really focus on, why did this start? Where did this come from? Where is this all or nothing mindset coming from? Why do you feel like you're not good enough? Where is your anxiety coming from? How can we regulate this and manage this so that you don't ever go back to binge eating or any other self-sabotaging behavior ever again? And then the last 4 weeks is about resetting and regulating. This is where we're really going to get into the nitty-gritty of resetting your dopamine levels to allow you to have balance in life. I want your eating to start feeling easy and that you're no longer feeling stuck with constant food noise, constant cravings, constant thoughts about binge eating. You now have freedom. You have so much space in your life to do things that you actually enjoy, and that it's actually going to help you build your dream life. And your body will naturally start dropping that binge weight, and you'll start to look and feel like a gym girl that you actually are. And you can be proud of that. You will not fail this. You won't. 87% of the clients that work with me stops binge eating at week 6. 10% stop at week 8. And the remaining 3, if you've done all the work that I told you to do, the remaining 3 will stop at week 10 to 12. You will. And like I said at the start, I would never let anyone fail. There's not a chance. I'm so invested in this. And if you can't tell by my passion, I live for this. This is what I do. And I want to help you too. I know it's scary, but all of these women follow the steps of the program and they all stop binging before the 12-week mark. And as you can see, they're all so different. So you're not broken. You've just tried the wrong strategy. We have everyone from Rihanna, who's a student, and she tried everything, even eating disorder counselors to stop her binging. And she was even purging as well. And she didn't have the money to pay, so her parents paid for this. And then she was able to stop binging. Amy was a fitness coach who felt like she was an imposter because she was binging and she didn't have control of her food. But after just 2 sessions with me, the binging was gone. We also have Bailey, who had gone to therapy for years without progress. She had done everything she thought that she could do for binge eating, but after joining the Empowered Woman, she stopped binge eating and dropped the weight and has been able to maintain it and continue her career in modeling. Yes, it is an investment. But how much are you currently spending every week on binge foods? On KFC, on McDonald's, on donuts, on Uber Eats, on coffees? Let's do the maths. Let's say, for example, every single morning you go to your local cafe and you get a coffee. You might even add some sugar in it. You might have a sweetener in it. That's an extra $1.50, depending on where you live in the world. You might probably also get a muffin or banana bread, which means it's around $10.50, maybe even more, $15 each time for that. That's $52.50 a week, just on coffee and muffins. You're probably also getting a chocolate at service station every day. That's, between $15 and $20. If you get McDonald's or KFC or any other kind of fast food, maybe pizza, that's between $30 and $50. You're probably also going out for breakfast. And because you're going out for breakfast thinking, I deserve it. It's Saturday. I've been eyeing off these Biscoff pancakes all week. I'm going to have them. It's probably between $25 and $40, depending on how many add-ons you're adding in. And you're probably adding in the Biscoff, the extra Nutella, the extra banana, the extra whipped cream, all of these add-ins, they add up. Then, when Saturday night comes around, you're like, screw it, I had pancakes this morning anyway, I might as well just keep binging. So you order the chicken wings, you order the burger, you order the pizza, you order the dessert. This is at least a $49 meal. And if you go back and look at your Uber Eats receipts, I can guarantee you that it's going to be probably more than $49. You probably also had some donuts and some sweets, maybe some crisps or lollies or chocolate, because it's the weekend, and what do you do on the weekend? Well, we eat. You also have spreads. that you finish in probably one sitting. You know, the Biscoff, the Nutella, the peanut butter, you know, the stuff that you just eat straight from the jar with a spoon because you're only going to have one spoon, but then you end up eating the whole thing. You know, that's another $10. So in total, you're spending at least $207.50. That's at least. If you look through all of the receipts, you are going to be spending around this much money. Because even though you only buy, you know, a cheap cake there and a cheap muffin there and a cheap donut there, it adds up. And the thing, when I was binging, I was always like, oh, it's not that bad. It's only, you know, on the weekends I spend this much and this much. But I forgot about all the other extra trips I used to take to the service station, or all the extra chocolates that I would put in my baskets, or all the extra stuff that I would just order because I just basically blank out. If we're looking at what you'd be spending if you went through the traditional route, you know, the in-person counseling, you're probably looking at around $300 a session. But you're not getting any nervous system regulation stuff. You just only talk therapy. You're not getting the workbooks. You're not getting a homework. No contact in between. There's no group support. There's no, you know, 24/7 contact. There's literally just that one session every week or every second week. Plus, you have to drive there, you have to drive home, you have to spend an hour there. You know, that's also taking time out of your already busy life. And I know so many of you are so busy, and I get it. You don't want to be spending, you know, hours every single week learning this stuff. With Empowered Woman, you're gonna spend less than what you're spending on your binging, less than therapy. You're also gonna be spending less time trying to overcome this because you only need 10 to 20 minutes per week watching my videos. So the modules are around 10 to 20 minutes long. You know, when you're messaging me on WhatsApp, that can happen in with the click of a button. You know, you're always on your phone anyway. So just send me a message, we sort it through straight away. You have the monthly calls with me. You can add more in if needed. But this is a calls where we're really gonna map up your specific strategy for how you're gonna stop binging in the first 6 weeks of working with me. You have our weekly group calls for ongoing support and community to be able to see other people get encouraged, you know, sit there and witness other people get advice, see that you're not alone, ask questions on the calls. We also have a lot of workshops and breathwork facilitators coming in so that you can have an all-round service. Like, I want you to get as much as possible out of this program. Now, these are also recorded if you can't make the live. You have the 24/7 group chat access, so you can come in there at any time, see that you're not alone, ask the other women for advice, share your story, share your wins, share your struggles, and just see that there's no judgment here. You're not alone, and there's actually people struggling with this, not just you. You can have one-on-one support through WhatsApp with me so that, you know, when the problem comes up, we can solve it. You don't have to wait until next week. You don't have to wait until the next session. We can solve it like that. And all of this is yours for just 149 Aussie dollars per week. You're saving over $600. Imagine yourself now, 12 weeks from now, you're feeling the happiest you ever felt, the most confident you've ever felt in your body, and totally unshakable confidence around food. You know, your relationship with your partner is better than ever. Your relationship with your kids, if you have kids. You know, maybe you started dating again if you don't have a partner. Your friendships are better than before. You can walk into the gym and you feel confident wearing that crop top. You feel confident wearing those booty shorts. You're excited about, you know, Mindy's birthday on the weekend. You're excited about going on a holiday. You're excited about going to the beach. You're excited about going out for dinner because you now have control over your food. You no longer binge. You no longer feel controlled by the food. You control the food. And this can happen for you in as little as 40 to 60 days for just $149 a week. Like, this is literally less than you're already spending on binge foods. Plus, if you also want to send me the Nervous System Reset workbook, I will send you a personalized voice note and my Binge to Balance ebook. So I'm going to leave you with that. All the options to sign up are below. If you need to book in a call with me to get some more clarity, that is so fine. I'm always happy to do that. Just mention that you're coming from the workshop. And honestly, I just want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for being the type of woman who knows that she deserves better, who knows that you can break this generational trauma, that you actually can fix this, that you don't have to stay stuck binging for the rest of your life, that you deserve more, that you deserve to have freedom, you deserve to feel confident, you deserve to have, you know, break that all nothing mindset. You deserve to actually get results from the gym. Like you're working so hard already. Why not spend the next 12 weeks working with me, fixing your binging once and for all, and then you can go back to your nutrition coach. That's everything, guys. Thank you again for watching. Please, if you have any comments, any messages, any questions about anything, just reach out. I love chatting with you guys. Love to know what you thought about the workshop. And please know that this special offer is only available for the workshop listeners or watchers. So make sure that you do reach out. I would love to take you through the program and make sure that this is the year that you finally break binge eating for good.